Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Van Orn and this is another Dragonheir Silence God video. Guys, I finished FEY MEANDER. I've got my hands on my second legendary artifact. If you've watched the video that I posted yesterday, which I recorded a few days ago, I believe Saturday, you know that I've managed to get the artifact from the Pillar of Trial. And tonight, just before recording this video, I finally managed to get the last few stages of the FEY MEANDER and get to the final boss, do the fight, and finally get my very second legendary artifact. And this time is really an impactful one because the one from Pillar, Improve Your Healing, has a lot of enlightenment, which is a good artifact, but it's a slightly small improvement compared to the epic one. While this one is going to have a massive impact on my account, especially because tomorrow the end boss is going to open for my server and I finally have a good DPS artifact, legendary artifact to use on my champions. So this artifact over here give you HP and attack, has a main stats, and then on the sub stats the wearer receive an additional up to 15% HP and up to 50% attack. Now for non-legendary heroes this effect is doubled, which is massive. It helps your DPS stay alive and have a lot more attack and brings them up to level with the legendary. So champions like Gerthin or those good DPS from the epic department, well, are going to get a big boost. So thank you for this, thanks to this artifact. Now, it's going to be good also on my legendary champions, of course, but I'm really looking forward to use it on my epics because I'm going to have to use most of them for my fight from tomorrow on the end game. But we're not talking about that because I don't have it tried yet. So we're gonna talk about what have been my process and my experience with the FEY MEANDER, which is a very long content, and I got stuck many times, to be honest with you, on many stages, and it's difficult for me to do a full guide on this content. I know in my previous video on the Pillar, I've received a lot of comments asking for a full guide on this content. And unfortunately, I'm not in that position, as I have explained, because working full time, I only have very limited time to record videos. And so to play this content, I usually use the time that I use to commute to work. And so I'm playing on my phone, on the train, try to get through the stages. Sometimes I do stuff on the fly, change champion, change gear, press play and put it on high speed and see if I get through. And so I don't have screenshot of the placement. I don't have screenshot of what I've used to get through the stages, but I have few comps saved. So we can go over those. I can explain you what the reasoning is for the gearing, and I can show you some of the most common placement that I've used through the stages. And I have the comps for 2 bosses, so you can have a look at those too. So to do that, we have to jump into the camp, which I know is a bit boring, but it's the only option I have. So let me show you over here. And let's start from the comps that I've used for climbing. Now, my comp for climbing has been mostly this one. I've used Quisitia on the front, and then I've used these 3 guys on the back with Rippercuss in the middle. So Quisitia has been my protection champion. She has been always at the front, basically taking the hits from the enemies. And let me actually put it like this, so it's a bit more clear. Obviously, the enemies are not to be placed like this, but when she's at the front, basically, she's gonna attract the attacks from all the enemies, and she has a passive that basically plays recharge speed penalty. And in this type of content, that is absolutely incredible. She also plays healing prohibition on a single target. She fear and knock up someone. She can knock up on the ultimate as well, and she plays attack penalty on a group in front of her. So she's the perfect candidate to be up there in the front, soaking up a lot of damage. She has good defense. I built her obviously with high defense, good accuracy, and she's been basically carrying the team at the front. Now, on the back of her, I brought Rippercuss. Most of the cases build quite tanky, but we're going to see a different build in a minute for the different comp. He was built quite tanky, coming from the back. and obviously pushing back the turn meter or the recharge ultimate energy with his ultimate, placing a lot of debuff, quite randomly to be honest. Attack penalty, recharge speed penalty, healing prohibition, accuracy penalty, and buff prohibition. Place 3 of them, usually 2 or 3 of them on the 3 hits random. He heals back himself, and he has also knock up and stun, so he can help controlling the enemies. And the hero gains equal to 50% of the healing the enemy receives. So when they heal, he heals as well, and he helps keep him alive. Now, to protect the backline, I've used Tia most of the time. She was built with the Zero set to give increased attack to my team, and she had the Incense Burner and a lot of skill haste to try to basically circle back on this skill that gives immunity and invisibility at the backline, basically at the range champion, placing healing prohibition, which is not really important, but she was placing the debuff, so she was giving increased attack to the rest of my team. She is really good because also the recharge time on the ultimate is very, very short. And so if you push a lot of skill haste and you use the Incense Burner, she's basically going to hide the backline from the enemies, basically for the full fight. And that is why I've used her, basically. And then I've used Adolphus with a lot of skill haste as well. The crowning clean, no. The tiara that gives him enlightenment. And I've built him with a lot of enlightenment to push these shields, be quite big. Skill haste, so he can cycle through his battle skills and his ultimate, building up those massive shields that are helping to keep the front line in particular alive. And the last champion was Zarlot. I've built him in a hybrid, basically build in a stun set with a lot of crit rate, not that much, but a good crit rate, decent crit damage, good attack, currently clean, accuracy to place, debuff. He's basically controlling with fear and recharge speed penalty, healing back the team, placing silence on the enemy, placing the decrease defense, and stunning them with good range on both skills. He was there to control the mobs all the time, basically. And this is the team that I've used to climb most of the stages until a few days ago when I finally got Alminster. Alminster came in quite handy because I was stuck on floors 175, I think, and I couldn't get through. There was no way I could get through that stage, and I finally basically got through using Alminster. Alminster is an absolutely amazing champion, and as you can see, I've used on him the new artifact I got from the pillar, the give him enlightenment, so his shields are bigger. I've placed him in a stun set as well to control the mobs, and basically the rest of the comp is pretty much the same. The difference mainly is that I put the Crown Indian Clean and a stun set on Rippercross, building him quite tanky with accuracy and the Crown and Clean. So basically it's gonna basically put the decreased defense, all those debuff and control we saw before. With a triple hit, more chance to place that one. The team has basically been this one. I've always swapped out an N. Zarlot was the alternative. And another good champions that I've used quite often has been Megan. Megan is absolutely amazing because she has these battle skills that heal the life and recharge their ultimate energy by 25%, place the defense up and recovery over time. So help the team basically stay alive and keep going. Put her in a good enlightenment monolith set. I've used often the Ancestor Candle on her to try to push that battle skills to cycle more often, and so push maybe Reaper cards or the other tank to do more control and basically keep the team running. And this has been pretty much the structure of my team throughout all the stages. Now, for the placement, I've obviously had to change them now and then depending on what I wanted to do. The main point for me has always been placing Quesitia to position basically in front of where the backline, the most dangerous champion on the backline was. If I had for example, Gulander in the center. I place it in the center, so she basically gonna pull him with her passive. She basically gonna attract the champion to herself. Actually, sorry, with the battle skills. Yes, drag the further enemy towards the hero, inflicting necrotic damage, and with a 75, buck up to 100% chance of placing fear, knock up for 3 seconds. Meanwhile, it has 75% chance of inflicting healing prohibition for 5 seconds. Amazing skills to control the enemy. And so, yeah, if the main problem for me was in the center, she was placed over here. Those waves were, for example, you have to Ripper Cast. I've used a different setup, something like this, to try to spread them out and being able to control. And then Quesitia was basically slowly pulling them on one side, leaving Rippercus on the back, and he was from the back basically being left alone and do the control and basically keep them alive. If I had someone like Jorn in the center of the field, I've then moved my champions in different positions to try to avoid the central hit, leaving maybe Adolphus up here by himself because his ultimate covered the entire board anyway. So you need to be smart with the placement. It's always different depending on the stage, and it's very difficult for me to give you a structure for the entire FEY MEANDER. So yeah, these are pretty much the technique and placements that I've used for the stages. As I said, you can group your champion on one side if you need to, and then they will control one side of the field. The rest of the champions are going to come towards Citia. She's going to control them. Rippercus is going to come from the back, being left alone. And Alminster is absolutely amazing because he has this massive shield, which is 2 tiles behind him, 2 tiles in front of him, and sidewise as well. So if you place it like this, for example, he's able to cover half of the board where your champions are going to still trying to move around. So it has been for me an amazing, amazing improvement. It has brought my team way farther than I was expecting. And that's why when I hear those conversations about if the artifact or the champion, what is the best, what you should go for first, well, for me, it's been an easy choice because I didn't have an AoE, like AoE decrease attack and protection champions like he is. There are other champions obviously in fire affinity that can do similar job. They have good AoE, turn meter control. They have, good skills. I didn't have any of them. And so I had to find a good balance for my comp. And it was fitting, honestly, quite amazingly in this comp. Depending whatever I was bringing, he was absolutely perfect for it. He had a decreased attack and decreased accuracy, which is absolutely incredible to control the enemies. You build him with the stun set. You have a champion that can control the field, can protect your team, and is absolutely incredible. The synergy with Adolphus, especially, is incredible off the roof because obviously he plays shields with the battle skills, so you have the shields up quite often. And then Adolphus replaces him with a heal, basically. He has a massive shield on his ultimate. He's going to build shield on shield and is going to heal your champions every time he does that. And that has been basically the team of my climbing through the entire FEY MEANDER. Obviously, there are stages that are absolutely a nightmare. It's difficult, it's tedious, it takes a lot of attempt. Sometimes you have a comp that is getting closer there. Just don't give up. Maybe use some food, put some food on your champion, and then try again. And you might be lucky that those decrease attack or control that didn't land the first time might land on the second or the third or on the 10th time. And for me, basically, that has been what it was happening. Now, these are my teams for climbing. I've used sometimes some different one like poison and lightning, to be honest. I don't have a save because I was building on the fly, as I said. And then I have a team that I've used for spider. Now, this is not the team I've used for spider 160 because on Spider 160, I've replaced the damage dealer, but we can still see what basically was my team. I've placed all my champion on one side, and at the end, the damage dealer that I brought was Evelius. But you can probably use someone else for this team. Um, Again, I'm not trying to make a guide on Famiander or just telling you guys my experience, because I know that when I'm using Legendary or using a particular champions, everybody goes like, well, what can I use instead of this one? What can I use instead of the other one? It's very difficult. There are a lot of champions. All our accounts are different. So I want to share with you what was my thought process in this building the team, and maybe you can find something in your roster to work as well. So I've used Furbot for the spider. So the spider basically is going to build up a debuff stacks on you, and you need continuous heal to reduce the debuff stacks. You need every time you hit them, you building debuff stack. So you need a lot of healing, continuous heal and heals over time for your champions to cool down and lower down the number of those debuffs. And that has been my main preoccupation in building this team. I've built Furbat with the Crown and Clean protection set, accuracy to do the job. It has obviously a lot of healing through his entire kit. You know him, he is the best, by far, best epic in the game, taken by himself. And I've paired him with Ergander. I've used Ergander in a hybrid build because I needed a lot of defense, good accuracy to do the job, and I want him to basically cycle through his skills a bit more often. And he was my source of decreased attack, basically, because the boss, every time the boss hit, gets decreased attack through his passive. Furbat was there to support, basically. And then I brought Nathaniel. Nathaniel has shielding, and on his battle skill, he has recovery over time. Basically, he's going to help you lower down those stacks. But the surprising one has been Garion. And as you can see, he is not even scroll, and yet he has found a space for me in the comp that did 170. I've used him because he has grants healing nexus at the design area for 8 seconds, healing allies within range by 1%, targets max HP plus 350 enlightenment every 1 second. So for 8 seconds, you have 8 pulsation of this nexus. They're going to reduce 8 stacks of the debuff the spider plays on you. It also has heal the ally with the lowest current HP by 50% of the target max HP plus 2000 enlightenment, and grants the ally debuff immunity for 5 seconds. For each ally with less than 50% HP on the field, the hero gains 1 stack of recharging speed boost. And on top of that, for each ally with less than 20% HP on the field, the hero gains an extra stack of recharging speed. Now, this one will not take place, basically, and you don't have to worry about it. It has a good aura because it increased the ally max HP by 30% in City of Trials, which is what we're talking about. So he is a very good champion. Don't underestimate him. And then you build your DPS basically a bit tanky. In my case, was Evelius because he basically triggers passive and trigger extra hit. So even if you are not bringing Dauntless, you still have a chance to trigger those extra hit. He hits hard. You build him with Enlightenment. You build him a bit tanky, and he's still going to do the job over time. It's not a comp they're going to take down the boss in matter of second. Is going to take a long time, probably towards the entire length of the fight, but it's a safe comp that you can run. Obviously, you can place anyone. You can replace Ergander, you can replace Evelius, you can bring Nimbus, for example, instead of him. You can bring Shelter. I've tried with Shelter with good results until 170. Before 170, I've used Shelter, for example, because I was trying to get sort of free-to-play comps. But then when it gets to the later stages, I just needed to make my life easier, to be honest. I just needed to get through, and I needed that artifact as soon as possible. And therefore, I've resourced back to my better legendary. And for the last boss, 180, I've used this comp, and I've just made my life easier again. Use Erich, which is the free legendary you can get from the campaign in Season 1. You just have to give to every single champion a resistance chest and a resistance negative rune, and then on the rest of the kit, you look for the stats you need. You need crit rate, attack, crit damage for your DPS. Defense, it's not that important because if the boss doesn't build up stacks of buff, she doesn't place debuff on you, she doesn't bring buff on herself, she doesn't hit all that hard, so you can avoid building too much difference and basically just go for resistance, and the rest is attack for him. He's gonna basically do most of the damage of the team in this case, and he's gonna bring down the boss in a couple of minutes, few minutes, what you say, 3 or 4 minutes, I believe it was the length of the fight. I'm gonna put it up on the screens also because I've recorded this one because it happened tonight just before I was recording. And yeah, the rest of the team is also quite free to play except for Quesitia. But we're going to talk about replacement. I brought the mighty Elminster Elmore over here. Well, because I was excited, because I wanted to use him as much as possible, and because he has a good synergy with my team. I've built him with 2 broken pieces, basically 2 sets. One of the Holy Hunter and one of the Monoliths, because both of them give one give accuracy and resistance, the other one gives accuracy and skill haste. I want him to cycle through this ability quite often. I've given him the spiritual incense. I've built the accuracy. I've built the resistance. That has been my main focus with them. I wanted him to resist the debuff and still be able to apply the accuracy penalty and the attack penalty on the boss. And that was pretty much it. I've built somewhat of enlightenment to get a decent shield, but it doesn't really matter. You need a bit of a shield on you. The main shield is going to come from Adolphus. He's also not so high on enlightenment because I've built a resistance mainly, 260. I've tried to play it with gear, but I don't know if this is the best build to be honest, but it still does the job. It has the tiara, and that's it. And the last one has been Megan. Probably not even that necessary. I could try to bring a second DPS, but the fight is already done, so I could redo it again. I built her with the Monolith set, 3 pieces. I want her to basically keep the team healthy. I built some skill haste to push the turn meter. I give her the Ancestral Candle, also give her more chance to proc her battle skills. And as we saw before, the battle skills recharge the ultimate energy. And so that's what I was looking for. And Quesitia was my tank. Crowned clean, protection set, accuracy enough to place, decrease attack, recharge speed penalty, uh, decrease defense through the crown and clean, and resist the debuff. You still have the occasional debuff placed on you, but the boss doesn't build that buff that quickly. Now, if you don't have Quesitia, you can definitely use someone like Isolde. She is really good. She does a similar job, and she also plays the attack penalty. She's going to place the shield on your team, which is also synergizing very well with Mister and Adolphus. She has defense up on your team, so if you place them close to her, she's going to also build that up. And she has the defense up in all battle aura, which is going to help your team stay alive, so you can build a little bit more of the rest of the stats. But I've never focused on defense, but she will help for sure keep your team alive, and she will work instead of Quesitia. So this will be somewhat of a free-to-play team. I know Mister is not considered completely free-to-play because you have to pull dices to get him. To be honest, 20 dices saved up through the entire season for him are something that you should absolutely do. The event is going to end and this champion is going to go, but he is absolutely amazing and he has carried my team through the highest stages, making my job quite easy, or at least easier than without him. I was stuck, as I said, 175. I couldn't go through a lot of stages. I've tried to take him out from the team in later stages as well, but I always went back to use him. It brings so much. It brings protection, that big hit, decrease accuracy and decrease attack are something that you really, really need on those high stages. And he has them. And he also brings protection. So what can he do more than this? To be honest, I don't know. And I'm looking forward to get also his artifact. It should be soon. Once I'm done with the rest of the campaign, I get all the points. I'm going to have the artifact too. And for next season, with the artifact and the champion, I'm sure I'm going to have a much easier life. So the affinity rotation next season is going to be different, obviously. Necrosis and Fire are not going to be together. Necrosis is going to be with Lightning. Radiant is going to be with Fire. And Poison is going to be with Ice. I think it's probably going to be, at least for me, for the champion I have, the most balanced rotation so far. Because I have good tanks in Necrosis, and I have good support and good DPS in Lightning, for example. I have good tanks in the Poison affinity, and I have good DPS in the Ice Blast in Ice. I have good DPS in the Fire affinity, and I have good support and tanks in the Radiant with Carius and Ardred. And obviously now we have a Mister, which is obviously slotting in perfectly. It's going to be interesting next season. Hopefully it's going to be easier for me to climb through the stages. It's going to take less of my time. So maybe I can focus more on doing more guides for you and give you some good insight through the climbing, not just at the end like I had to do this season. This is everything for this video, guys. I hope you find it somewhat helpful. I know it's not a full guide, but it's still going to be giving you some frame to build your team and hopefully get through the stages of FEY MEANDER and get your hands on that amazing legendary artifact that is waiting for you at the end. This is everything, guys. I'm going to see you soon with another video about Dragonheir Silence God.